Now, one of the big things I love to talk about is what is always going to happen next in the 40k narrative. Now, what we have so far is the Imperium being attacked by the biggest Tyranid invasion there has ever been recorded. But I don't want to talk about that today. I want to talk about something a little bit more important. What's more important than the entire Segmental Pacificus being eaten by the Tyranids, Valrak? Well, that is Abaddon. Abaddon, Chaos, Vashtor. What the hell is their next step? What are they going to do with their narrative journey into this next step of the edition? Let's jump in and let's get waffling. So first off, I think it's best if we quickly just summarize what happened at the end of 9th edition with the Arcs of Omen narrative. This will bring us all on the same level, so then we can discuss what's next for Abaddon and the forces of Vashtor and the forces of Chaos as a whole. So what happened is that we had this epic conclusion of a battle. It was the Dark Angels and all the chapters, the Unforgiven, that went with the Dark Angels. The Lion was there, Vashtor was there. There was a big battle on the rock. Vashtor was literally after something from the rock. It was the Tuchilla engine. I always say it wrong. I call it the Tamagotchi engine. It's basically the sentient AI that they locked away, which can transport anything, anywhere in the galaxy. Vashtor managed to get that. With that, he basically assembled what was kind of like a reborn Caliban planet ship. What was kind of, well, it was mirrored like Caliban, but wasn't Caliban, if that makes sense. Yes and no at the same time. That then so-called planet ship thing, whatever you want to call it, a ship or a planet, I don't know, I'm just going to call it the planet ship, right? The planet ship then was able to actually go into the webway. It was like a key to go in the webway so they could search for this so-called weapon, because that was the plan for Vashtor and Abaddon. But Abaddon was promised that he would receive a weapon from Vashtor, and Vashtor then, of course, with Abaddon getting the weapon, would ascend to the next stages of chaos power, becoming another chaos god. Be'lakor was in there. Be'lakor messed some stuff up. Basically, what we had at the end of it, just to sum it up, is that the forces of chaos technically won that battle, even though the Lion shield bashed the face in of Angron, who was also there with the shield that was potentially given to him by the Emperor. The forces of the Imperium did literally lose that battle, or they retreated from that battle, let's say. Lose is a bit of a strong word. And the forces of Vashtor went into the webway. Abaddon basically said to himself, because he saw the Lion return, he heard about the Lion's return, was this like a kind of like a foolish errand to go this? Like, how is another Loyalist Primark now going to impact the setting, you know, his dominance on the galaxy, the Imperium as a whole? And that is where we basically left it thinking, like, what happens next? Like, what is the next big narrative? Of course, then, what we got with the launch of 10th edition is the Tyranids hitting the Segmental Pacificus, and they've been consuming everything, and all the forces of the Imperium, Guilliman, Trajan Valoris, everything like that, they've been literally putting all their resources, or most of the bulk of the resources of the Imperium, into that Segmental Pacificus to stop that Tyranid foe. So this leaves Abaddon and Vashtor now basically with kind of like free real estate, so they can literally go around and kind of do what they want in the shadows while the Imperium is fighting this big Xenos foe. Now, one of the things that excites me now about potentially what could happen with the lore is bringing in another Xenos race, which a lot of people follow, and that is the Eldar, the Dark Eldar, the Harlequins. You know, there's been so much talk about these races potentially getting new models. I've heard about the Eldar getting another release, but I'm not going to go into that in that video. I'm going to really stick with narrative stuff for this one. But with Vashtor in the webway, surely it makes sense for them to be one of the main characters in this new narrative now, because they've used that longer than anyone else, and if Vashtor's using it and abusing it with the powers of chaos, surely it's right for them to intervene and try and stop the forces of chaos from finding this great weapon. Vashtor has promised Abaddon a great weapon, and we don't know what this weapon is. Could it destroy the galaxy? Is it just going to give him more power? We literally don't know, but surely the Eldar may have some idea if Vashtor is using the webway. Is the weapon the webway itself. That's another theory out there. We literally just don't know what he's promised this weapon to be, but it's going to be a game changer for Chaos themselves. And again, we know that the Eldar are working closely now with the Imperium because of Guilliman. Guilliman has this council of generals and, you know, higher authorities with all the crusades that are going on, and there's actually an emissary from the Eldar attached to that council, much to the disgust of most of the Imperials on that council. The Eldar are actively helping the Imperium fight the war against Chaos and trying to push them back into the rift, hopefully trying to seal the rift and get things back to normal as fast as possible. Now, I personally think this is the time for Abaddon to strike out and hit the Imperium where it's going to hurt the most. Not only is the northern part of the galaxy basically cut off and having a hard time up there, fighting the forces of Chaos, fighting amongst themselves, fighting Xenos races, everything that's happening there. You've now got this huge invasion in the Segmental Pacificus to the west, and the Tyranid foes, again, the biggest Tyranid invasion that has been put on record. So that is a hell of a lot of forces of the Tyranids literally ravaging that segmentum. Surely now Abaddon needs to pick up his sword and start striking at vital targets, because the resources of the Imperium can only be stretched so far before breaking, and most of those resources are now heading to the Segmental Pacificus. So if he wants to take certain points to build up his final push on Terra, this is where he needs to start hitting out. So I'm hoping now we start seeing over the course of 10th edition some narrative campaigns where the forces of Chaos actually start taking these vital objectives. We actually see Abaddon start winning something. Maybe we actually get some new characters popping up from this. I know we talked about this on one of my streams. Like, it always seems to be that Abaddon is the main focus in the Black Legion. Let's have some other characters, maybe not from the Black Legion. Maybe Huron Blackheart get some more spotlight now. He's seen the Imperium the way it is, and it's fighting the forces of the Tyranid host, so he's swooped in and he's doing resources. Maybe we can have a campaign for the Red Corsairs and stuff like that. That could be absolutely epic. But again, it doesn't have to be named characters. This is the perfect chance now for them to make new characters, new legends being born out of this brand new conflict, coming in and purging cities, sectors, planets, consuming them, taking the resources, taking the planets themselves and stuff like that, and making a name for themselves. This is literally the best time to do it, because the back of the Imperium is turned facing another foe. But there is one thing that I've noticed about Abaddon, and at this point it's kind of like a meme. Well, I see it as a meme. I know we always laugh about it and stuff like that. Is that every time Abaddon does something big, like these big plans, like splitting the galaxy in half with the rift, like helping Vashtor to acquire all these relics so he can lead him to this weapon that is going to give him, you know, power and stuff like that, there always seems to be a Primarch, a Loyalist Primarch, that comes back and actually aids the Imperium. With a Great Rift opening, it was Guilliman. With the Vashtor storyline, it was the Lion. Now, if that's going to follow track, if he actually potentially gets the weapon or gets close to the weapon, is that going to activate another Primarch coming back? I know there's a ton of speculation about Loyalist Primarchs and, you know, traitor Primarchs, and, you know, I've done videos on them. I'll probably do more videos on them later down the line, but just for this video right now, yes, Fulgrim is going to come back. I've heard that, and like, I'm fully convinced in that. If you want to believe that, believe that. If you don't, then don't. And I'm also hearing that another Loyalist Primarch will be coming back in 10th edition as well. For who that is, the speculation's out there. I personally, and again, this is my personal opinion, think it's going to be Lehman Russ. A lot of people think it could be Vulcan, could be Jagatai Khan, could be Rogel Dawn, it could be Korax, right? It's really wherever your theoryverse wants to take you. When you look at what is going on now with the Chaos narrative and they're in the webway, it would kind of make sense for Jagatai Khan to come back in that kind of setting, because Jagatai Khan was lost in the webway. Maybe he picks up this planet ship of Vashtor and heads towards that, and he has an epic battle, and then they're both sucked out of the webway and back into real space, and that's how Jagatai Khan's back. Because don't forget, time passes differently in the webway. You could be in the webway just like you are in the warp, and it could be 10,000 years for people, but it could only be, you know, a couple of couple of years, couple of seconds, couple of minutes, right? It's just a way how time works in that different reality. It could be Lehman Russ. Maybe Lehman Russ is trapped in the webway. Maybe he's in the webway looking for the whole tree of life and everything. All these possibilities there. He comes back and stuff like that. Dawn could be in the webway, right? We have this old King in Yellow storyline that we don't know the conclusion to. Hopefully Pandemonium's going to sort that out when that actually gets released. There's so many theories. There's so many roads to go down. I'm personally thinking the narrative of Chaos, whatever that will be, is going to be the activation for the next Primarchs coming back. Fulgrim, of course, on his pleasure crusade, which we've talked about, and Abaddon wanting to teach him a lesson, and maybe they'll start clashing blades. And again, Abaddon maybe finding the weapon and activating another Loyalist coming back to help the Imperium even more. I'm sorry if this comes across to you Tyranid players and you like Xenos players, like, you know, the Tyranids are not a big threat. I personally think they are the biggest threat. I've said this for a long time. I don't think the biggest threat is Chaos to the galaxy. I think the biggest threat to the galaxy is Tyranids, because we've only seen like a few of the Tyranids. We haven't seen the full beast itself that's heading towards the galaxy. We've seen the fingers attached to the hand. We haven't seen the arm, the body, the head, the legs, the feet, the toes. We haven't seen anything like that. I personally think they are the biggest threat, but the way that GW do the narrative, they're always going to have Chaos and the Imperium as the main characters in this story. Hopefully, they do have a good showing throughout of 9th edition. That's the Tyranids, by the way, because the last thing I want is what we happened with 8th edition with the Necrons. It was all about the Necrons, the Silent King coming back, and nothing happened with it, right? Literally nothing. We really don't. We still don't know what happened with the Prime Nexus. Last thing we heard is Gilliman was heading towards it, and that was that. There's been no more updates in White Dwarf magazines. There's been no more lore articles. The Prime Nexus animation, no sound or sight of that. So yeah, hopefully the Tyranids have a good showing and they have a few good battles, and you know, they actually has a decent end to that narrative. Anyway, I'm going into like waffling points at this moment in time. I would love to get your thoughts and feedback on this. What do you think about the next big narrative in 10th edition? What do you think about the next big narrative for Chaos, for Abaddon, for Vashdor? How's it all got to mingle in together? Do you think it's got to activate a Primarch coming back, Fulgrim and stuff like that? Post it all down below and we can have a nice little chat down there as we always do. See ya, have a great day, and bye-bye.